You know, I feel like there's something I should be doing right now, but I can't quite remember what it was. Something about honor and a really overrated sci-fi movie? I can't remember. Oh, by the way, happy Halloween. Hello everyone, and welcome to What Do I Know, the show where... I don't remember where I was going with this.
Did that jog your memory?
Yes, thank you. Forgotten Friendship is the best Equestria Girls special. Its themes are fascinating, well-defined, and remarkably challenging for MLP's target demographic. Everyone I know loves this special, and I can write a rather lengthy list of reasons why, but I'd like to focus on the story's themes. Before I dive into this special, I must first introduce you all to this man, Charles Cooley, an American sociologist best known for his theory on how individuals develop their sense of self. Cooley theorized that as people grow, they form their sense of self around their interpretations of other people's reactions towards them.
What?
Your self-perception is based on what you think other people think of you.
What?
Okay, you know how parental guidance is all about how Rainbow got her sense of pride and competitiveness from her parents?
Yeah?
Well, that's a perfect example of Cooley's theory. Growing up, Rainbow was constantly showered with attention and praise from her parents, and the more praise and adoration she received from them, the bigger her ego grew. Rainbow sees herself as awesome because the way her parents reacted to her gave her that impression. She thinks that they think she's awesome, so that's how she sees herself. This theory, commonly referred to as the looking glass self theory, is easily the most prominent theme in Forgotten Friendship, which leads me to my first point of discussion. Sunset's kind of, for lack of a better word, selfish in this special.
Care to retract that statement?
No. Look, just hear me out. What is Sunset trying to accomplish in this special? She is trying to restore her friends' memories. But what really happens to them if they don't get their memories back? Yeah, they'll lose a friend, but they don't know that. They're not in any danger, and there's nothing stopping Sunset from earning their friendship back the old-fashioned way. The main six getting their memories back isn't important to Sunset because they'll be harmed in any way. It's important to her because she doesn't want anyone, least of all her friends, to think any less of her.
Am I nice?
Sunset's motives don't really become selfless again until she realizes that her behavior around Wallflower was far from admirable. In the last 10 minutes of the special, her motives expand to include making amends with Wallflower, as well as restoring her friends' memories, which I find to be rather fitting. Now, make no mistake, I am not suggesting that Sunset's motives are unsympathetic. She's had to fight and earn the trust of the school and her friends every step of the way. Getting reset back to square one is not something that she deserves. But if Sunset's goals were truly altruistic, I seriously doubt she'd use such aggressive tactics like getting ready to duke it out with Trixie in the hallway, or threatening to have a go at Wallflower.
You're about to see how mean I can get.
What do you think would have happened if Trixie hadn't jumped between them? In fact, I'd like to take this opportunity to go on a bit of a tangent. One of the biggest reasons why I've always preferred Starlight over Sunset was because Starlight's transition from villain to protagonist felt a lot smoother. This was primarily because Starlight enjoyed the advantage of being a character in a show and not a movie character, meaning that her transitional phase could happen over the course of a season rather than in a single movie. There was a natural progression to Starlight's character across season 6. Sunset's change had to happen in a single movie. To its credit, I think it was handled rather well, but the biggest issue I had with Sunset as a character is how black and white the differences were between villain Sunset and protagonist Sunset. This special, however, made me realize that Sunset's transition wasn't so cut and dry. There's one prominent character flaw that she possesses across all of the Equestria Girls series.
Oh, yes, she's so very special. It wasn't a fit of jealous rage. And worst of all, you put the lives of my friends in danger. It's not about the parakeet!
She has a very short fuse, and it's especially short in this case because the entire school is against her again, with the exception of Trixie. Which, conveniently enough, leads me to Trixie and back to the discussion of the Looking Glass self. I wouldn't be surprised in the least if there was an argument that Trixie's inclusion in this special was little more than fan service. And while there may be some truth to that, I wouldn't know, I'm not on the writing staff, her inclusion in this particular story makes perfect thematic sense regardless. Consider this exchange between Sunset and Trixie before they team up.
So you have this idea of who you're supposed to be, but no one at school sees you that way. Is that it?
Trixie is someone who sees herself as great and powerful regardless of what other people think of her. The students laughing at her poster suggests that the student body is apathetic towards her showboating at best and see her as a bad joke at worst. Trixie is obviously aware of this consensus, but she doesn't care. That's not to say it doesn't matter to her, it absolutely does, but she doesn't let it affect how she sees herself. Trixie's purpose in this special is to be a foil for Wallflower. She's an example of people who reject the looking glass self, who choose to see themselves as great regardless of what they think other people think of them. Her inclusion in the story makes it clear that the looking glass self does not apply to everyone, and you can form a sense of self outside of other people's reactions towards you. Or, in Wallflower's case, people's lack of reaction towards you. Holy sunbutt, Wallflower is an incredible antagonist. Arguably better than any other antagonist in Friendship is Magic's lineup. Better even than Starlight. Not a better character, fight me, but a much better antagonist in terms of motives, themes, methods, design, backstory. Blasphemy! Seriously, Ash, this is the third time in a row we've done this joke.
But I wouldn't be popping up so much if you weren't so belligerent on your unjust assault on the perfection that is Starlight's glimmer.
Oh, for the love of Gwen, will you get a life already, you overzealous, one-note, misanthropic idiot! I swear, if you don't stop bothering me, I'm gonna find you and shove a pineapple so far up your— What the— Oh, yeah. Sword. If Trixie represents what happens when one rejects the looking glass self, Wallflower represents what happens when one invests too much in the looking glass self. She's spent so much time around people who've failed to acknowledge her existence that she's convinced herself that she is indeed worthless. Hence, this incredible flashback sequence, with Wallflower being in the background of everything that happened at CHS, but nobody noticing her. It's hammered in even further by this musical number. Practically every lyric in the song is driving home how worthless and alone she feels. I'd criticize it for being unsubtle, but I think it's less like getting hit in the head with a rock and more like getting a bucket of warm water poured over you. They're both impossible to ignore, but one is significantly more enjoyable than the other. Wallflower's loneliness is impossible to miss, but not annoyingly so. But I would argue that the most telling sign of Wallflower's self-image is not the song or the flashback sequence, but this line during the climax.
How am I supposed to get back at you if nothing I do matters?
Nothing I do matters. Not just how am I supposed to get back at you, or how am I supposed to get back at you if you find a way around my every move?
Neither of those options sound like natural dialogue.
The point being that the first impression Wallflower had when Sunset caught up to her was that the mind wipe didn't matter. Neither mind wipe mattered because she was beginning to look good in front of her friends again. And why would she think otherwise? Sunset's ability to work her way out of the situation Wallflower put her in was further proof, to her, that she didn't matter. It didn't matter that she erased everyone's good memories of Sunset, and it didn't matter that she erased Sunset and Trixie's memories in the yearbook room, because she didn't matter. Nothing she does matters. And it's appropriate that a character with the ability to erase memories have this particular mindset, because in a twisted sort of way, it's true. Literally everything she does doesn't matter, as long as she keeps erasing people's memories. The only reason she doesn't matter is because she's sabotaging her every attempt at leaving an impression. She left little to no impression on others before she got the memory stone, and she left absolutely no impression whatsoever after she got it, because she erased every attempt at making conversation. Her belief that she didn't matter became self-fulfilling, which is why it's so fitting for Sunset's motives to change. Her chasing after Wallflower during the climax isn't just to get her reputation back like it was in the yearbook room, it's to save Wallflower from her own self-imposed hell, which is why her approach is so radically different. The one downside to this story is that there's no moment where Wallflower suddenly realizes that she does have self-worth. Sunset tells her that everyone matters after the stone is destroyed, but I think it would have been more impactful if there was a moment in the special where she made a significant contribution to something, like, say, the yearbook, and Sunset cited that particular moment to make her feel her own self-worth. Alternatively, you could have Wallflower do something during the climax that would have achieved the same result. Thankfully, the special makes up for that by having the next best thing, a moment where she realized that she was her own worst enemy. I talked about this briefly in my second Reformations video, but the catalyst for Wallflower's change is witnessing what she reduced Sunset to after erasing all of her high school memories. She'd only been using the stone for little things up to that point, not realizing the damage she was causing because the changes were seemingly negligible. Realizing how dangerous erasing memories was made her realize that she was the one who needed to change, not Sunset. The aftermath of the confrontation sees Wallflower taking active steps to change her self-image by taking more active steps to make friends. And not just friends with the main six, though it's not hard to guess that that's who was encouraging her to make other friends. She's found other people who share her interest in gardening. She's achieved a self-image that's based more on people's reactions towards her than people's lack of reaction towards her. This is what makes Wallflower's reformation feel satisfying by the end, despite the show's recent tendency to neglect characters who've been reformed. Instead of having a eureka moment where she realized her own self-worth, she takes a look at herself, realizes where she needs to improve, and starts taking active steps to better her life. While it's doubtful that we'll ever see her again, Wallflower's reformation is one of the most fulfilling in the entire show. But that's coming from a guy who won't stop defending Starlight's reformation, so what do I know? I'm Officer Trigger Happy, and I can't remember what my closing joke was supposed to be. Wait a minute.
We're done here!